Welcome to Soar Higher with Jason Ballard, a podcast developed for leaders by leaders to inspire you to reach your highest altitude possible by providing proven strategies, resources, and expert advice to accelerate your personal and professional success beyond what you thought was possible. I'm Joel Weiland, and I'm joined in studio today by your host, Jason Ballard, and today we're going to be talking about how everyone needs a coach. Well, welcome, Jason. So glad to be here in the studio with you today, starting our very first podcast episode on Soar Higher. And this is just going to be a podcast about leadership and coaching, why it's important to better yourself in your business career, and then essentially just how you can get to the next level ultimately. So today, again, we're going to be talking about coaching and why that's so important. So tell us a little bit, just as we begin, about your passion for coaching in general, and how you want that to look here in this podcast.
Yeah, no, that's great, Joel. Coaching really is about one simple thing. It's really about leadership. It's really about how do you bring out the best in yourself, because you have to be the best you can be before you can help anybody else be the best they can be, right? You can't give away what you don't have. And if you're not a solid, balanced, strong leader that has figured out how to be successful, you're going to struggle to do that for anybody else. Luckily for me, in my journey, I've been able to work with some really, really awesome leaders and mentors that I still keep in touch with to this day, and they've helped shape me and mold me. And, you know, the whole reason we created this podcast, Joel, as you know, is to take all of those things that were passed down to me, all of my experience, all the things that, you know, I have been able to leverage in my career to be successful and with my family, with my career and my businesses, is to be able to give those things to other people, because people are out there and they have questions, they have concerns, they don't have a lot of mentors or bosses that have time for them. They get lost in their life, lost in their career, and they, you know, sometimes develop self-limiting thoughts and fears. Sometimes they settle and they think about these things all the time. It burns a hole in their brain and they lose sleep over this. They stress over these kinds of things, and they just don't have an outlet or somebody that gets them, that can connect with them. And that's what this show is about. That's what I'm hoping to be able to provide. You know, whether you're a business owner, a business leader, a C-suite executive, or, you know, a manager, supervisor out there, somebody looking to figure out how to make it to the C-suite top floor, that's what we're here to do, is
Absolutely.
to help them find themselves in their journey.
And that's really interesting, that just the concept of a coach. It's the concept of coach obviously has so much to do with leadership and someone that is admirable and someone that you want to emulate. But I'm just even thinking back to my own personal experience with coaches. Like, I looked up to those mostly men in like sports and things like that, and several women that just influenced me very directly. But there was always just a personal touch, I suppose, with those things, but just a personal working into my life with how they impacted me and the people around me. So tell us just a little bit about maybe your experience with coaches, like in just your own personal life in the past.
Yeah, you bet. Well, think about it. From the time we are born, we have parents, grandparents, potentially siblings. We have pastors at our churches. We have school teachers. We have community leaders. We have, all kind of sports coaches. If you play sports, if you're into music, you got a band director. You've got people around you from the time you're born up until the time you graduate high school or even college that are your support mechanism. They're teachers, coaches, mentors, people that can push you, that can challenge you, that can make you do an extra 10 push-ups you didn't think you can do that day. Study a little harder to make that A on a test versus a B. Whatever that may be, we normally have those types of things around us most of our lives. And then we go out into the world after high school or college, and now we're out into the wild of the world and all that's out there, and yet we don't have a coach.
Absolutely.
We lose mentors. We don't have those kind of things anymore, but yet that's when life really starts to get tough and challenging, and when you really need people the most, because the decisions you make in adulthood are some of the most important decisions you will make. And if you don't make the right ones, and you don't have the confidence with the right people around you to coach you, lead you, guide you, and direct you, some of the choices you make could really limit you. And so I encourage everybody, if they don't have a coach, a mentor, or somebody that they really like and respect, that challenges them, that sees more in them, that they respect and they really care for, go out and find that person. That may be in your school, it may be in your workplace, it could be anywhere, your church or something. If you don't, then you've got a friend here in Soar Higher Podcast, because that's what we're here to do, is to serve, as a coach and a resource for people out there.
Absolutely. So why, or rather, what do you think is necessary even before you look for that coach? Like, what kind of attitude do you think that people should have, that I should have, to be able to seek after and actually find quality coaching for the things after I turn 22, after I leave college?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is just being open-minded. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, get done with school and they're tired of being taught. They're tired of listening to people. They're ready to get out and take all their 22 years of knowledge and education and training and just go out and go do something with it. And that's great. You should do that. You've developed that for 22 years. You've got skills. Get out there and make it happen. However, there's no manual on how to be an adult. There's no manual out there that I'm aware of on how to be a great spouse, or how to be, the best parent ever, or how to be the best boss ever. There's some things out there, some trainings you can go to as a business professional, online or in person. And those things are good. There's a lot of good stuff out there. But the problem is that, when you go to a class or a seminar or an expo and listen to somebody speak, or if you go to your local bookstore and buy books on leadership and business and career stuff, success kind of stuff, the problem is that most people don't retain that. They'll read it, they'll feel good, they'll write some notes, and they'll have some good takeaways, some gold nuggets they'll pull out of those things. Then it'll go sit on the shelf somewhere or get turned in to buy another book or whatever. And statistically speaking, Joel, people in those situations only retain between 5 and 10% of the content, unless that is reinforced over a period of time and they create new habits with the things they've learned, which most people don't. They run into some obstacles out there and they kind of forget what they learned in the book, and they kind of default back to what they know. Well, the value of a coach is accountability. Accountability is key, because a coach is the expert. The coach has been there and done that and knows those trip hazards that people can trip over, and help guide and direct them and keep them on track and focused on the things they need to be focused on, versus, I read the book and I interpreted it this way, and so I guess I'll do that and see how that works. Well, sometimes guessing and trying to figure that out on your own and hope that works doesn't work for most people.
And that's a really interesting point that you make there. How much, in just even in your experience, how much does humility play a part in the ability to be coached?
It goes back to what I said a minute ago. You have to be open-minded. You have to be humble enough and smart enough to think, I don't know everything I really need to know. I am not the expert at 23 or 33 or even 43, right? nobody's an expert on everything. I know people in business that are in marketing, and they are really, really good and talented about marketing. They are really creative. They are really innovative. They know how to take a particular person's business and know exactly how to market that and which channels to use and how to integrate things together and really make somebody's marketing campaign successful that generates revenue for them and helps them achieve their goals, but aren't good at how to run that business. They're not good at leadership. They're not good at developing a culture. They're very good technically and functionally about a particular discipline in marketing and knows how to run Google campaigns or run social media types of things. But leading people, creating an integrated strategy that's written down that all the employees can share and focus on and all be, rowing the boat in the same direction at the same time, at the same pace, communication, teamwork, culture, all those things, customer service, all these things that surround the art of marketing and delivering high quality marketing, they're not the experts at most of the time. And so where you're not an expert, I highly recommend people in this very fast-paced, ever-changing world that we live in, connect people, surround yourself with people that are experts in those things, and it'll allow you to be more successful a lot faster. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of stress in the process.
Absolutely. So that almost seems like what you're talking about is maybe delegation. Is delegation a huge part of leadership in your experience?
Well, you can't be a leader and do everything.
Amen to that.
Okay. Leadership's not about doing. Leadership's about inspiring and motivating people to do things that they may not understand, they may not like, they may not agree with, to the point where they kind of own it themselves at some point. They take ownership. And so as a leader, you have to be a master delegator. It's not that you're lazy or you don't want to do the work. You're just a leader. Leaders don't do work. Leaders lead people that do the work and keep everybody all on the same page, keep everybody focused on the end goals, keep everybody prioritized, keep everybody working together as a synergetic team to get the best results.
Absolutely. And going back to coaching, I guess in my mind, I've seen a lot of leaders just personally that didn't necessarily have anyone pouring into them. That didn't necessarily mean that they were bad leaders. They just maybe in some ways stopped growing. So I guess my question is, do you ever graduate? Do you ever not need a coach in your life?
Never. You should always be pursuing excellence. You should always be pursuing continuous improvement every single day, every single week. Nobody's perfect. There's only one person that I'm aware of that's ever walked the face of the world, face of the planet, that was perfect, and that was Jesus Christ himself. And nobody else is Jesus. So, we all have, our vices. We all have our shortcomings and weaknesses, and you should always be, working hard towards your strengths and working hard towards doing the things that are you're passionate about and you care about, that's right for you. But also in the back of your mind, like, well, we did great. We met our goals. Now what? How do I become a better person? How do I become a better dad? How do I become a better mom? How do I become a better leader, manager, supervisor? How do I become better at everything? And we should all strive for wanting to be better.
Absolutely. So let's go back maybe in history even a little bit and kind of talk about how you started to recognize the need for coaching at this kind of macro scale. We talked a little bit briefly in just our introductory episode about your experience in the military, experience in several different high-level business positions and things like that. When did you start to recognize that there was just this great need for coaching and then ultimately coaching in the business sphere?
Yeah. The military, I didn't realize this until after I got out of the military, but the military is probably one of the best organizations to be part of from a career and professional development perspective.
Interesting.
I wouldn't say they force you. That's a strong word, but they have the structure and the mechanism set up to where every so often, every so many years, you are given the opportunity to be promoted. It's very clear, clean, very equitable. Everybody has a chance to win. Everybody has a chance to succeed. You just have to apply yourself and do the work. And when those things happen, you get opportunities to go to schools. It's not optional.
Mm-hmm.
They take you out of the operational day-to-day and they put you in some sort of school to help you, not functionally in your specific technical area, whether you're an IT person or a marketing person or a civil engineer. They take you out of that, put you in a group of people that are mixed together from different fields where you can learn from each other from that perspective, but they're focused on how to supervise, how to manage people, how to manage things. And they gradually, over a period of time, continuously grow you technically and as a, supervisor, manager, leader, all the way up to as far as you want to go with it. And it's very structured and, you know exactly what happens. As
what's expected of you.
You know exactly what's expected. Absolutely. Well, when I to my, surprise, when I would return back to the civilian world, a lot of that doesn't exist unless you're in like a major, Fortune 500 kind of company that has a lot of employees, a really robust HR program that has training and, these different types of things in it. But even then, there's still a lot of shortcomings with that. And so they're good at teaching people time management and sometimes communications and teamwork. And there's some general kind of stuff they teach. But when it gets into like management and leadership, I just haven't found a company that really nailed that at the level they really need to, because a lot of those corporate people come to me wanting me to coach them. And so I get to see, some of the bigger companies out there, even down to the smaller ones. The smaller ones don't even know how. They don't have an HR department. They don't even know how to. They know they need it, but they don't know anything about it or what to do and where to go with it. So they're leaning on people like me in the industry to kind of guide them and assess things and help them figure this out. So huge need. It was a major light bulb moment for me, after about 3 or 4 years of being, in the civilian world again. Wow, we have a major, major, major gap in leadership. I mean, you see it in politics.
Yeah.
Look at our national level politics today. Look at even the local level politics. I mean, it just in politics and in business, COVID, big disruptor that disrupted everybody's business, the whole market, the whole economy. And it was a real challenge for leaders to lead through adversity. And that's really the test of a real leader is, can they lead through adversity and come out the other side? And a lot of folks didn't. And that was another kind of glaring thing that stuck out to me even more, was people get put under pressure and they start cracking. There's a huge need for leadership out there, real, true, genuine, sincere leadership. And I'm just one guy in the world trying to fill that gap. I'm not sure I can do it all by myself, but I'm gonna sure knock a dent in it.
Absolutely. Well, man, that's obvious. It's very obvious to me, just from my somewhat limited experience, that there is a massive lack of leadership, and that can be directly tied to just a lack of coaching, a lack of people being either open-minded or willing to be held accountable, sometimes just a lack of humility. So I guess the main question is, why doesn't everyone have a business coach? Why doesn't everyone have somebody that's telling them the ins and the outs of how to become a better leader and then ultimately to run their business better? Why doesn't everyone have a business coach?
Well, that's $1 million question. And if I had $1 million, I might be able to answer it. Based on my perspective and my being out in the world and working with lots of different people all over the world, working with companies and individuals alike, I'd boil it down to a couple of things. One, most people really don't know what a coach is. When you think of a coach, they think of like Nick Saban in Alabama Crimson Tide football coach. They think of Coach K at Duke coaching basketball or something. They think of more sports related when you think of coach. They don't really understand what a business or executive or career kind of coach is. They don't know those things even exist most of the time, what they really do, what they don't do, and how to really engage them. And it's just kind of this mystical kind of land. People are familiar with consultants, some of the bigger name companies out there, the Deloittes of the world, the Accentures of the world that are really big, powerful consulting firms that come in and help people in a number of different ways. They really don't understand what a coach is or what the difference is. And I think that's important for people to understand. And so let me kind of break this down real quick. Consulting really is very simple. It's about you needing a specific expert to come in to work on a very specific thing. Let's say a strategic plan. A lot of companies will hire a big firm to come in and take over their strategic planning initiatives. And there's a specific start date to that. There's a specific end date to that. And the company comes in and kind of tells people where to go, what to do, ask all the questions, sets up the meetings, and they take all that information and pack it into a nice, shiny, glossy folder and hand them their fancy new 5-year strategic plan. And then they get paid and they walk away. That's a typical consultant. Those are needed. Those are important. Coaching is much different. Coaching is more relationship based. Consulting is more transactional. You do something for somebody and then usually leave and move on to the next thing. Coaching is usually longer term. There's a personal connection between the business owner, the executive, the manager, whoever's being coached, and the coach. So in my business practice, I typically am with people for 6-8 months or even longer. I've got clients I've had for over 3 years now and still going, still growing, still doing great things with them. Coaching is quite simply about helping people figure out what's holding them back from achieving something they really want to achieve. In my practice, I call myself a business wingman. And I do that for a reason. Coaching is like flying next to somebody. They're an owner of a company or an executive leading a team in a company, or they're the leader. They get to make the decisions. I don't come in and take it over, but they're going down a path. They're trying to accomplish something. They just don't know what all is involved in that, especially if they've never accomplished whatever it is they tried to accomplish before. And so it's like flying in the dark. It's like trying to, figure out these unknowns and what's coming around the corner. And so as a business wingman, I'm kind of flying right next to them.
Yeah.
I've kind of been there and done that. I know what's around the corner. I know what's at the end of the tunnel, that and what success looks like at the end of that, and how to navigate them into it and set them up for success. Because the last thing you want is people to go through something and achieve something and then not be able to handle whatever that is at the end of that tunnel, because then it overwhelms them and then they kind of give up. So I ride with them kind of like a shotgun rider, riding next to them, guiding them, directing them, preventing them from making critical mistakes, saving them a lot of time and money from trying things and seeing if it works. No, I give them proven, solid solutions and guidance along the way. I work with them every single week, side by side, making sure they get where they want to be a lot faster than they could do it on their own. It gives them a lot of confidence. They feel like they have a confidential, trusted advisor that cares about them, cares about their success, and is, all in on them achieving their goals. And that's what I really love about this. It's leadership, it's strategy, it's stretching people, coaching people. It's a lot of these dynamics together. And when people get it, and when I can see the confidence change in them, when I can hear a different tone in their voice, they walk with their chin a little higher and their chest stuck out a little farther, I know they're on the right path. And it makes me feel good that I'm able to help somebody and give them some value.
Absolutely. Going back to just the fact that people don't really understand that there are such a thing as business coaches, what are some of the reactions that you've just personally seen when you're like, hey, I'm Jason Ballard, a business coach? Like the average owner of a $10 million business, what are some of the reactions that you've seen when you are either offering your services or just saying, hey, you might not need me specifically, but you probably need some business coaching? What are some reactions that you've seen?
It varies. There are certain people that will lean right into that. Oh, you're a business coach. Oh man, that sounds great. Tell me about that. And they're excited and they're like, oh yeah, I deal with things every day in my business. I'd love to have a guy like you around, and we get to talking. And so some people lean into it and they connect with it, and they're just humble, and they just are focused on doing whatever it takes to succeed. And then they see you as an asset. They see you as somebody that gives them something that they don't already have in their wheelhouse and that can be value add. And they instantly kind of get that. Sometimes people, I run across this from time to time, they are good, hardworking people that have done well, but maybe stuck, maybe can't take it any farther, maybe plateaued, kind of stuck in a rut a little bit. Sometimes people will have an ego. Sometimes they'll have pride, and they're afraid to ask for help. They're thinking, oh, well, only a business coach or an executive coach comes around if you don't know what you're doing. They think about it in a negative way. They kind of take it personally, like, I don't need a coach. I've got a business and I'm making money and everything's great. And, yeah, great. But, the place is on fire every day too, and people are leaving left and right. And yeah, from your perspective, it may be great, but from everybody else's, it may not. And so sometimes with people, you just have to navigate those conversations. They really want the help deep down in their heart and soul. They really know that there could be, weaknesses and some things really kind of shackling them down and preventing them from really making those, gains that they want to make. But they have that tough exterior of, I don't want to let people think I'm dumb, or that people think I can't figure it out, or, I need some babysitter coach to come in and, guide me around, hold my hand. Well, that's not what coaching is about anyway. Yeah. And then, sometimes folks are kind of dreamers and well-wishers and good intentions, good heart, but they're just not ready. They're just not ready. They need a coach, but they're not ready for a coach. So they'll talk in these really big circles, and they'll, talk about solving world hunger, and you can't focus them if you paid them $1 million to focus for 5 minutes. They just aren't ready
No,
to get
known a few of
serious.
those guys for sure.
So I meet a lot of different people from different perspectives, but most people, like I said, they really don't know or really understand what that is. Most of the people I've worked with have never had a coach. And so it's an educational process. It's a building a friendship process, building that trust. And once you get about 3 to 4 engagements in a row with them, then it kicks in. Then they really start getting it, and it just takes off.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are some other reasons that people just don't have business coaches in their lives?
Well, that ranges the spectrum as well, Joel. Sometimes that is lack of money.
Yeah.
They just, hit a tough time and they can't afford a coach. Sometimes, they're trying to start a business and they're trying to bootstrap it and they don't have a lot of, equity investors or something like that helping them out. And other times it's timing.
Yeah.
It's timing. They're really busy. Everybody's busy today. Everybody's on fire. Everybody's got a million things going on and nobody has time to be coached. But if you're a leader, you should be controlling your time. Nobody should be controlling your time for you. If you're not in control of your time and something or someone else is, are you really leading at that point? And so, quite honestly, there's 168 hours in a week, and you can't meet with a coach for an hour out of 168 to make your business better, to make you better, to achieve bigger, better things. Sometimes it really is about time, though. It could be, they're taking care of a sick relative, and they're just kind of letting the company kind of coast, and they're not really doing a lot in the business because they're focused on personal matters or a sick child or life events happen. And they're just not, their head's not in the game, and they're just not focused. And that's fine. Everybody goes through seasons, and there's an argument for coaches during those times, and there's an argument, for holding off on working with the coach, out of those times. So it just depends. The thing about me and how I coach and how we're different than most of the other coaches out there is it's all about the client, where they personally are at that moment of time and what they need, what's stressing them out and what is important to them, meeting them where they're at.
Yeah.
And customizing a solution or a program or a plan around them that they get excited about, that helps them achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. A lot of the other coaching groups out there, they're very cookie cutter, they're very generic.
Here's your three ring binder with your next 4 months of strategy, but that's it.
Here's your binder with all the answers to all the questions you can ever think of. Let me know if you need anything else. Or, here's the 12-step process or program to make all your dreams come true. There's a lot of different things out there. I think regardless of where people go to get help, I think if you have any type of help surrounding you, I think that's a positive thing. You just have to figure out the right thing for you and what you need. And the clients I work with, they don't want the cookie cutter stuff they get online or in a book or something. They want me engaged, guiding them through that process, giving them the tools they need.
That's awesome. And so, we have been focusing kind of on why people might not have a business coach, but let's focus on some success stories. Let's focus on some real areas of triumph that you've seen. So what are some stories, maybe either personal stories with your clients or just other people that you've seen in your industry where you've seen clients or business leaders, executives really excel directly because of a business coach in their life?
Yeah. I love telling stories. However, in my line of work, I have confidentiality with all of my clients, just like a lawyer or a doctor does. And so I will never reveal names and all that kind of stuff, but I'm the particular client that pops into mind today, you know, as we're talking, is a particular guy. Met him a number of years ago, and he's in the tech field and is a successful business owner. And I'd come across him a few different times, knew of him, didn't really know him that well. And a few years ago, a friend of mine that I go to church with came to me. We were talking about, you know, just catching up on things, talking about different things. And he's like, "Hey, have you talked to so-and-so in a while?" And I was like, "Man, I sure haven't. I haven't seen that guy in, you know, probably a year and a half." He's like, "I think you should talk to him. I think you can help him." And he didn't give me a lot of background or on what was going on. I'm like, "All right, sure. I'll reach out to him." Well, a few days later, I reach out and had about a 15, 20-minute call. We kind of caught up and didn't talk a whole lot, but we agreed to meet for coffee and just kind of go from there. Well, here's how it turned out. We get about 30 minutes into conversation, and this particular gentleman was very down, just kind of low energy, kind of sad. He was just nice guy, you know, he's a wonderful guy, but I can just tell like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. And we were talking about his business, and he was talking about, you know, where he needed help in his business. He hadn't been focused on the business and all of these things. And I started asking questions. You know, a good coach asks questions, right? I'm like, "Well, what do you think's holding you back? And what do you think the next opportunity is for you?" And we started, he's like, "First off, my mindset, I'm just not in the business right now."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, well, that happens. You know, guy's been in business for 20 years. I said, "Well, what is your mind on?" And this is where the conversation really took an interesting turn. He's like, "Well, I had a daughter commit suicide. And it's about 8 months ago, and I just can't. I have guilt. I have shame. Just have all these thoughts. What if? I should have. I would have. All these what ifs he was running through his mind." And he looked at me, Joel, and he said, "Jason, I just feel alone. I feel like I'm on an island. I have nobody to talk to. Nobody gets me. Nobody understands this at all. And I don't know what to do. It's like I've almost given up." And he was very open. He was very honest, very genuine man, very good man. And I looked at him, and I'm starting to kind of tear up. I felt really bad. Yeah. He's tearing up. It was a very emotional moment. And I looked at him and I said, "Well, why don't we work together and that'll never happen to you again?"
Wow.
And he looked at me and he started crying. And we started working together. Been together ever since.
That's awesome.
And the journey has been really great. He went through some really tough times. You know, his father had passed away. His son had gotten injured, almost died. His mom passed away, all within about a year and a half of all of these events that transpired. And we went through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of twists and turns, but through it all, you know, even through COVID, through all these different things, we still achieved his goals, and we still grew his business. The first year was 18%, second year was 25%, wow. And last year was 22%. And he's on another level. Now we're talking about a whole nother, space for him to go into and really follow some more of his passions he's developed. and, really tight, really close with that particular client, and very proud of him. I mean, he's a lot of people would have given up through all of this, and he stayed strong. And it was a client and a friend now that I'll never forget, and will, go home at night, Joel. Not every day you go home and you feel like you made a difference in the world, with all the craziness in the world today. But there are certain days where the good Lord will send you a little message or a little reminder, by goodness, you made a difference today. And that's one I look back. When I have a bad day, I look back on my relationship with this gentleman, and I think there's at least one.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously helping people is extremely satisfying, but let's talk just a little bit about your personal motivation in being a business coach. Why do you care about it so much? And then two, obviously, other than a paycheck, what do you get out of it?
Yeah. Let me answer that in a couple parts here.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I do it? Why do I care about this? I could care about a lot of different things. Why this? Goes back to me being humbled back many, many years ago by a few specific people that saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. Fast forward that a few years, another particular person that highlighted something to me that, again, I didn't see in myself. I have some God-given talents. I'm not trying to be boastful or brag or, put myself on a pedestal here, but everybody in the world is unique and different in their own ways. They have strengths and weaknesses that are similar or different than other people. And for whatever reason, the good Lord made me a strong, passionate, caring person that is good at leadership. Yeah. It's good at motivating, inspiring people. If you take assessments like DISC or Myers-Briggs or, these different types of assessments on who you are, what makes you tick, those kind of things. Leadership. Inspiring people, motivating people, getting people to get out of their heads. And I just have this ability, and apparently not everybody in the world has it, to see things other people can't see. I can, Joel, it took me a long time to figure this out. Too long.
Yeah.
I can walk into anybody's place of business in a matter of a few minutes, just look around, watch, observe, can accurately assess what's going on, normally within 95% accuracy, if not better. I can just feel it. I can sense it. I can see people with their heads down, walking around. I can see people talking and how they're engaging or not engaging. You can just feel the energy and the vibe and the culture. I can meet people for 5 or 10 minutes, talk to them, get to know them, and I can figure them out really, really quick. Apparently, not everybody may have those skills and abilities. Yeah. And the second part of the question goes back to my purpose is and what I feel leadership really is about, and the voids and the gaps in the world thereof. And that is, leaders motivate and influence people to achieve great things. Leaders grow new leaders, and leaders set people up for success. So for me, as a leader, I can't go to bed at night knowing that, well, my goodness, I made it to the top of the pyramid. I became a business person, a C-suite guy, a CEO, a decision maker, a political, this, that, or the other, great, awesome, wonderful. So what?
Yeah.
Good for you. But what are you doing for everybody else? How many leaders did you grow? Yeah. How many people did you make successful? That's really where this matters. And luckily I was been able to do that in my career, up to this point, and take people along the way, and hopefully, set them on a higher course for themselves. But huge need out there right now.
Oh,
huge need right now. And for the foreseeable future, the baby boomer generations retiring and getting out of the workforce. We've got millennials that now make up the preponderance of the workforce, and the Gen Zers coming in. And guess what? Those groups of people are all different, and they have different needs. Mm-hmm. And the needs of the workforce today with millennials and Gen Zers demands. It's not an option. It demands leadership that's engaged, that will talk with them, that will figure out their development. The generation of today wants to grow, learn, and be developed. The challenge is they've grown up in a very technical, everybody's got a smartphone kind of world, mm-hmm. instant access, instant gratification, and they struggle in problem solving. They struggle in collaboration. They don't talk face to face very much these days, right? They talk with text, and they talk with, social media and many different things that are good, but those aren't all the solutions. And so there's a lot of opportunity for guys like me mm-hmm. that have made it to the top, in some people's view, and can help guide and shape this next group and mentor and coach them to be the next generation of leaders. Because at the end of the day, I may pass away tomorrow, or it may be in 30 years, but I'm going to leave, and other leaders are going to leave, and we've got to leave this world a better place. Or have we really done a job as a leader?
Absolutely.
I don't think so.
Yeah. And I would love to just say that I can see that in you, like as someone that has been at the top to a certain extent, has been the CEO of several different companies, has seen what leadership looks like when there aren't any other people on top telling you what to do. And here you are several years later, teaching and reproducing leadership into other people. And I think that's so cool to see that motivation actually is in action in your life. And that's something that I'm hoping to learn myself as I continue on.
We all are.
Absolutely. We're just about out of time for this week's episode. We're really glad that you've joined us, but just kind of a final question. If you were to just meet someone on the street and they said, hey, I own my own company, or hey, I'm trying to get to the top level of the executive group at my company, what would be just kind of your elevator pitch or your plea for, hey, you need to pursue coaching? Not necessarily so that you can just get a bigger paycheck, but so you could be a better, more successful person. What would be your plea?
Yeah, my first reply would be a question. Well, what are you trying to achieve, and why are you trying to achieve it?
Yeah.
And where are you at in that process? The answers to those questions, I think, reveal, next steps. And everybody's trying to go somewhere, but does everybody, have the GPS they need to guide them to the place efficiently and effectively as possible? Most people don't. And if I, see that they don't, and they could get value from something, that I offer as far as, advising, coaching, training, and the things that I offer, or that of someone else that does something similar, I would say, hey, here is some resources for you. Let's talk. Or, if I'm not the right guy, then let's find somebody that is the right person for you, that can help you, be a resource for you, and help you move forward in the way that you want to.
Absolutely. And I would say that just attests completely to your motivation behind it. Like, at the end of the day, if somebody doesn't use you for your services, you still want them to better themselves. You still want to get them into the place where they could be coached by someone else.
Yeah. Because, let's face it, we're all getting old, and there's going to be a day where, I'm going to be old in the senior citizen home, and somebody's got to run the country. Somebody's got to run business. Somebody's got to run the community and the churches and all the things that make this world go around. So I want everybody to be successful, and, whether, they connect with me and I can help them in some way, great. If not, there's a lot of other people out there in the world that are passionate, as a pastor or a coach or a mentor or a leader of some sort or a community builder, connect with the right people that are right for you. You're only as successful as the people you surround yourself by. And so be very, very choosy and selective about who you put in your inner circle, and make sure that inner circle is very well-rounded with people from with different levels of knowledge and experience and expertise, and you should go far.
Absolutely. Well, that's about all the time that we have for this week's episode, but thank you for listening to Soar Higher with Jason Ballard. All of our social links for LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram will be in the show notes. Please like and subscribe those. We're always looking for new ways to interact with our listeners. If you're interested in learning more about Jason specifically and his work as a business and executive coach, you can visit soarhighercoaching.com. That's soarhighercoaching.com. And then join us next week as we provide more insight on how to overcome the latest business and career challenges that people are facing in the workforce today. See you next week.